Good? Good? Okay. Let me see if this works. I want to do the student view. And pop this out. Mirrorpod's a little bit different than Pear Deck when we use it at the beginning of the year. Okay, so again, news literacy. This is something that, like I said, ties into what we've been doing with the bias and studying statistics. Yeah.
Oh, this is a question from the Ed puzzle
Uh-huh.
from 5.3.
Mhm.
The first question was, do you?
I know. I wrote a follow-up on there. Did you see?
No.
So they were supposed to mark every question right, but it's not doing that. So as soon as I go put those grades in, I'm just going to add that to everybody's grade.
Oh.
So it counted everybody wrong on accident. So I'm just going to go add those same points to everybody's grade before I put it in. Yeah. So speaking of that, I hope you guys watch that Ed puzzle because it's a good video. Talks about experiments in particular being played in the news and how do we know what to believe and how do we do that. And so they literally these you can find these courses on news literacy. In this day and age, we have had to find out a way. What's the best way to distinguish between what is real news and what is fake news? And let me just start out by asking you guys a question. Here, you put this on your screen there. Answer this question on the screen there. Do you trust news stories that are reported in the mainstream media?
What is that?
Well, what do you think the mainstream media is?
Probably the main media.
Well, what's that?
KXAN.
KX. Okay, so do you think local news is mainstream media? That's another question I was going to ask next. There's no right or wrong answer here, guys. It's just participation. It's just a participation grade. What do you guys consider the mainstream media? CNN, MSNBC, Fox. What about not just TV? Is the Austin American Statesman and the mainstream media? That's the newspaper for Austin. Is the New York Times mainstream media?
Okay.
Is InfoWars mainstream media? We're going to talk about that. We're literally going to talk about that. Make sure you guys select a option because I'm about to share your results. Did you all select an option? Did you all select an option? Make sure you press submit. I think there's a submit. Let's look at the answer choice. Let's look at it. Most of you guys said sometimes depends on the source, which I expected that to happen, right? The way I worded those answer choices. But how do you guys know what source to rely on? That's the big question, because you guys might think you know what is good and bad to read, and you might actually be more aware than others. But the big problem is the simple fact that there is a lot of people who don't understand how to differentiate between the two because confirmation bias is so high. Okay. I'm going to have you guys watch a video. Oh, actually, before that, I want to read what news literacy is. I want to read this out loud. News literacy is the ability to use critical thinking skills in order to judge the reliability and the credibility of information, whether it comes from newspapers, TV, most importantly, the internet. And the internet is really the biggest problem that we have with the misinformation, because some of these mainstream media outlets that you guys are just naming, we a lot of times can hear like, oh, well, that's fake news. That's fake news. Well, why do we? I hate to use the term fake news because there's a huge difference between actual fake news that is spreading disinformation, wrong information on purpose, and InfoWars, and fake news that somebody says is fake just because it goes against what they believe, right? We hear that a lot, and we heard that a lot from the last president. We hear that the term gets thrown around so much now that fake news is just labeled on anything that they don't agree with. Okay, so watch this video. This is the only video of the day, and then we'll talk about that, and then move on.
Hey, come here. Did you know that RuPaul claims that Trump touched him inappropriately in the 90s? Or that Obama signed an executive order banning the Pledge of Allegiance in schools nationwide? Okay, we all know that was some grade A, top shelf, premium fake news. But you knew that, right? You're way too smart and well-informed to fall for that BS. But what if falling for fake news isn't about intelligence or how much information you have? What if we're hardwired to believe what we want to believe, regardless of the facts? The 2016 presidential election saw fake news come out of nowhere. A BuzzFeed analysis showed that the top 20 fake news articles on Facebook generated more clicks than the top 20 real articles from every major publication combined. They were shared millions of times. And it's not that we're just sharing fake news. We appear to be believing the stories too. A recent poll found that people believe fake news articles were somewhat or very accurate 75% of the time. How can we be falling for fake news when we have these things? We have instant access to more information than we've ever had before. Debunking misinformation should be a piece of cake, right? Decades of brain research say, no. Turns out, our brains have other plans. A little something called cognitive bias. Cognitive bias is defined as a limitation in our thinking that can cause flaws in our judgment. It's kind of like an annoying brain glitch that can lead us to make faulty conclusions. Fake news often exploits this and our brains love it, even if we're not conscious of it happening. Once we form conclusions, they're hella hard to change, even if we're presented with facts or evidence that directly contradict those conclusions. So what exactly is going on in our brains to make us think that fake news is real news? Why can't facts change our minds? There are many flavors of cognitive bias, but one of the most researched is confirmation bias. We seek out information that we believe or want to believe is true. It also leads us to ignore or minimize facts that threaten what we believe. So here's a study that explains how it works. Back in 2004, during the Kerry Bush election, researchers studied a group of 30 people, half Democrat, half Republican. Both candidates did what politicians do. They flip-flopped on the issues. Then the study asked the participants to analyze what the candidates said. The participants let the candidate in their own party off the hook, but were super critical of the candidate in the other party. Ew. When researchers looked at their brain scans, they found that the area of the brain responsible for reason, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, was inactive. So people weren't using reason when evaluating the candidates they liked, but they were using the part of the brain that processes emotion, the orbital frontal cortex, a classic case of confirmation bias. And their brains were also rewarding them with a rush of dopamine, a neurotransmitter that makes you feel good. So is there any upside to confirmation bias? Well, it could help protect us from ideas that may threaten our social standing and our tribe. Dan Kahan, a law and psychology professor at Yale University, calls it identity protective cognition. We humans are hypersocial, so it's more important to protect our values in our relationships with family and friends than it is to risk losing that by adopting new beliefs. Are you familiar with Tomi Lahren? She's a conservative political commentator.
A protest is a peaceful objection to a grievance. A bunch of sore losers occupying a space is called a tantrum.
But recently, she expressed her pro-choice view on abortion.
No, I'm pro-choice, and here's why.
As a result, members of her conservative tribe turned on her. Ouch. So, how do we defeat confirmation bias? Well, you really can't, but our 3-step plan can help you get around it. Step 1 is recognize. Recognize that you have this bias in the first place. We all do. You made it this far in the video, so you can check that one off. Step 2 is consider. Consider that you may not really understand what you think you understand. Researchers call it the illusion of explanatory depth. Let's say I strongly believe that GMOs are bad for me. If someone forces me to explain it, I just might realize that I don't understand it as well as I thought I did. Now, I might be less confident in my belief and more receptive to another point of view. Step 3 is research. Research and break down the opposing viewpoint. You may realize that your understanding of where they're coming from is a bit too shallow. So now you know the perils of confirmation bias and have some tools to beat it. Let's try it out. Without being a smartass, pick a controversial topic and use step 3 on it. Don't try to persuade, but instead use research and facts to lay out why the other side believes what it believes. Put your dorsolateral prefrontal cortex to good use, will you?
Will you? All right, let's see how well you guys are paying attention to the video.
$5 to anyone with To what he just said about the brain.
Yeah, don't worry about the brain part. I mean, that's the physiological portion of that. But answer this question to see if you guys are paying attention. What's the 3-step plan to help limit confirmation bias? And a lot of you guys might actually be doing this already, and this is a great thing to be able to do. I was about to give away the answer. Let's see if you guys who is paying attention. See who is paying attention. All right, come on. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Jayla, you still there? You haven't answered any questions.
And Chepe?
Oh, Chepa's not here, is he?
Yeah.
He texted me earlier. He said he was going to be here. Never mind. All right, Jimena, are you there? Make sure you press submit, guys. Make sure you press submit. I think it's at the bottom. Oh, we lost somebody. Most of you got it correct. It was the consider, recognize, and research. Or recognize, consider, and research. And how do we do that, though? How do we, if you know something's off, and I hear this a lot from people, well, just do your own research. Do your own research. How do you do your own research? What?
You just Google it.
Google it? Well, how do I know what to believe on Google? There's so much information out there. And that's the problem with the digital age, is that there's way too much information to try to sift through. And a lot of what we think looks credible is not credible. We just passed the anniversary of Kobe Bryant's death. Does anybody know of Kobe Bryant's death? A year.
Really?
Yeah, it's been a year. Does anybody know or remember who the first media outlet to report his death was?
Fox.
Close. There's a show on Fox.
World News.
What media outlet loves to gossip about everything celebrities? TMZ. Hey, TMZ was the first media outlet to report on Kobe's death. They reported it within an hour of it happening. Some of his family members found out he died from TMZ before they found out from family and the police.
Wow.
Right? Now, why did this happen? Is it illegal for them to do that? No. But these companies, especially TMZ, they love to be the first before they get all the facts. They want to report before they get the facts. And good, credible sources will wait till they have all the facts before they go to print or before they go to air. And what makes it even worse is social media is making it even worse. Spreading on social media. So that brings up a big question here. And again, don't be worried about being right or wrong. Do you think companies like Facebook, Twitter, and Google should have the right to censor people for spreading fake news? Give me a short explanation. Don't just write yes or no. Just short explanation. What do you think? Put it on your screen. Do you think companies like Facebook, Twitter, and Google should have the right to censor people for spreading fake news? Okay, not real news, but fake news. Big difference. Real fake answers. Just give me one word answer, Marshall.
No.
I said don't give me one word answers. Give me.
I've already seen it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
I only see no.
No, I did like that. Okay.
I like this answer. Yes, because people can elaborate off of fake and create more fake. I have more people in here than I have like on. Oh, Christian, you're in here twice.
Yeah.
Sorry. No wonder. Okay. Again, guys, no right or wrong answer. Just give me an answer here. What you think? Yes, because you could spread harmful fake news that can injure someone or a group of people just because the facts weren't ever confirmed. That's a really good answer. Is it against the law? What's the one thing a lot of people like to bring up in terms of being censored? What does the First Amendment say? You have freedom of speech from the First Amendment, and it's really important to understand what the First Amendment actually says, actually does. Let's get a few more answers from you guys. Jayla. Carla, Jerry, other Jerry, not you, Jerry. Yeah, well, Gerardo, Jerry. And neither one of you are actually Jerry. Jayla, are you even there anymore? I think you're not there.
Yes.
Oh, why haven't you answered the last two things?
I'm sorry.
All right.
Because I think it's really awkward. Yeah.
Nobody can see your answer but me. And nobody can see your answer but me. Yeah, there's a lot of good answers here. What does the First Amendment actually do? What does the First Amendment actually do? Yeah, so we have the First Amendment protects against freedoms of speech and expression from government interference. Government, nobody can sue you for the things that you say unless the things that you say incite something like I said Marshall is the devil incarnate, and now somebody wants to go and kill him. All right. Now I can be sued or falsely identified or not falsely. Now I can be and get in trouble for that, right? But by spreading fake news, the First Amendment can't do anything about that. However, it does not extend to private companies like Facebook and Twitter to censor people publishing and spreading fake news. Whether you agree with that or not, those companies have the right to do that. And disinformation is a really big problem right now among those social media companies. And at first, these social media companies they took a stand. They're like, no, we're sticking behind this freedom of speech for a long time. And it only up until the past year that they actually started doing something about it. There's been a lot of scrutiny on them to do something. Well, now there's a lot of scrutiny on them by doing it. And obviously the biggest one is there on the screen. You know, Trump's got his Twitter account suspended, and they just announced yesterday. Did you hear?
No.
Suspended forever, never getting it back, even if he runs again for president, and even if he wins. They said that he's not getting his Twitter account. He can run again in 2024 unless the impeachment trial he gets convicted. So he can run again and he can win again. You know, but Twitter's already announced that they've barred him from life. And again, you can agree with that or not. So how do we check the news? Some of you said like research, and Chris said Google. I've gone all day. You guys are my fourth class today, and I haven't had a single person heard of PolitiFact. Please tell me somebody in here has at least heard of PolitiFact.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great. PolitiFact is a great website to check, fact check the news, especially things that were said by politicians and people in the government and Congress. The great thing about PolitiFact is that they are run and funded by a nonpartisan organization. Do you know what it means to be nonpartisan? Yeah. It means that they're not liberal, Democrat, they're not Republican, conservative, they don't take a side, they're not partisan. So it's great to have a fact check in place like this, funded by something that's not biased, right? And they have this rating system. You can see the rating system there, that they go all the way from true to liar, liar, pants on fire, which is funny. And you can go on there, and they have thousands of articles, and they dedicate whole entire pages to certain people who tend to lie a lot. And here's some that I found from this one. These are all recent claims. There's a Facebook post going around as of today that says that not one court has looked at the evidence and said that Biden legally won the presidential election. And they have labeled that as a pants on fire lie. That they have a whole article that explains where that started and circulated from. It's on Facebook, and they can prove it wrong. And they've proved it for you. So you don't even have to do the research yourself. They've done it for you. Here's one that Trump says the vice president has the power to reject fraudulently chosen electors. That's false. They prove it's false. They should tell you why. And I even put one on the other side. There's Joe Biden telling a half truth where he said, if you're making less than $15 an hour, you'll be living below the poverty wage. And it explains why it's part true and what part is not true. and what part is false. So this is a good website to use. Use it, PolitiFact. It's super great to double check something that you might be reading and you're worried about it. Has anybody ever heard of Snopes? This is my favorite one. Okay, Snopes has been around a lot longer. This was around when I was in high school. Snopes originally started out as a fact-checking source for like urban legends and rumors. You can find stories on like La Llorona on there on Snopes. They're popular pop culture, stuff like that. They also do a lot of current event stuff, things that are going around, especially on social media. Obviously, COVID's the big thing going around right now. And there's a story going around. Have you heard that you can buy the vaccine on the black market? You guys haven't heard that? You heard it? What did you hear about it?
I just heard there was like possibly like fake ones going around and stuff like that.
Oh, fake vaccines too? Yeah, it's all false, guys. It's been proven false. So here's a story about the COVID vaccine being on the dark web or the black market. They summarize it at the top of their article, and then they explain. They tell you what's true, what's not true. What's true is that you can find ads for these in the dark web. But what's not true is that they're all scams. And if you are really that dumb to believe that you can buy a vaccine on the dark web, some part of me wants to say you fell for it and I feel bad. I don't feel bad for you. But the other part of me, the empathetic side of me is like, we should know better. And you guys in high school about to graduate should know better for sure. And you should be able to relay that information to your parents and your grandparents. Because I had to do that. I had to tell my grandfather that little multi-level marketing campaign, that pyramid scheme that he wanted to do was not a good idea. You know, you have to be able to tell and be able to set on that. So this is why this is my favorite chart. This is almost the last thing, second last thing we're going to do.
InfoWars at the bottom.
Yes. The glorious media bias chart.
What?
Okay, let me explain about this chart. This company has dozens of writers to analyze thousands of articles from these websites, and they rate them on a scale of. They have a scale, and then they put that particular news organization on this chart. Before I say anything more, I want you to analyze the chart and just on your screen circle the area where you would find reliable, credible, fact-based news. Circle on the chart where you would find reliable, credible, fact-based news. Let's get everybody to do this. Make sure you press submit once you're done. Make sure to submit it. Where is the credible information? You can see on the screen here where it talks about fact and skewing left, skewing right, and being in the middle. Yeah, it's surprising, right? And before you go and say, oh, well, who made this? Who made this bias? Like, they have come out with versions over version. This is version 7.0, which just came out last month. I ordered the big poster for this, so it's easier for you guys in class to see, but it didn't come in yet. I'm so mad. But most like you're all doing this right. Let me share.
I disagree with InfoWars.
What?
I disagree with InfoWars.
There's chemicals in the water that turn the frog gay.
There's chemicals in their water that do what?
That turn the frog gay.
Oh my gosh, you guys are something else.
Look up Alex Jones.
He's a character.
I know who Alex Jones is. I've seen his people out on the streets.
Yeah.
I've interacted with his people. I had to throw when I was working South by. I had to throw his people out of the convention center.
Why?
Really?
Because they were harassing people in line. I'll talk to you guys about that on another day. That's a good story to tell. Here's what somebody drew up there. This is correct. The up top middle is fact-based, no opinions. It's literally reporting the news as it is, and it doesn't skew one way or the other. The ones I'm so tired of hearing, can't trust the mainstream media, can't trust the mainstream media. Yes, you can, the right ones. And the ones at the top in the middle of this, I think, Noah, this is yours that you circled. Associated Press, Reuters, the New York Times, CBS and ABC News, the BBC, the Wall Street Journal. These are reliable mainstream news sources, and you can use those. You can trust them. Okay, what's up?
So you're telling me, like, you said, so most of those mainstream media, they take a while to get because they want all the facts, right?
These are the sources that will not report things right away.
That means that all the other people are believing this because they come out.
That's true, but that is very true. The ones on the bottom, like the National Enquirer, the InfoWars, OAN, Newsmax, the Daily Kos, and the Occupy Democrats on the left side, these guys like sensational headlines. They grab you in because they confirm your biases. And they also report only what you want to hear.
Do they know that?
They know that for sure. Oh, absolutely they know that. Absolutely. But guys, I implore you to use this. When I post this video later for people that are watching, I am also posting this as an image. Save it to your phone. The next time you come across something you see on social media, you're like, that's bullshit. That cannot be true. See the source it's from. Back it with this or those two websites that I showed you, and tell if you saw a story from OAN and somebody's claiming something happened, I'll be like, no, I don't know if I really believe that. Or the way that headline is worded is definitely skewed to make me think one way or the other. That's another problem. People only read headlines and they don't read the whole story. That was in that video that I had you guys watch the other day too, where the news producers didn't read the briefs. They only read the headlines and the big story. That's what they want to report. That's what grabs viewers in, right? But you can use this information, and there is a way to combat this, just like the guy in the video said, and the resources that you have with you guys. All right. So here's your exit ticket, guys. Answer this question. Put your exit ticket on there, and have a great weekend. Be safe. Please don't drive if it's icy and wet, and I don't want to see you guys in that. Yeah, I saw it last period. I don't want to see you guys in that pile up. There was a big pile up on 35, I think. Once you finish your exit ticket, make sure you guys press submit and you can log out. Have a great weekend. I'll see you guys later. Hope you learned something today.